Hi, today I update the firmware on my R5 and the RF100 to 500. We also dive into some confusing details of what's available for each camera in the latest updates. Let's look into that. Hi, I'm Tom and you're watching Rumourhasit. Please subscribe for camera news, rumour and informed opinion. It's free to subscribe and it helps the channel grow. Well, it's been an interesting few days. I've seen a lot of doubt about that Canon would even issue this update, and then misinformation once it was released. Not helped by Canon pulling the R6 firmware and quickly releasing firmware 1.3.1. But in reality, and ignoring all the wishes and desires, Canon have delivered on what they promised back in August last year. Here's the actual announcement. As you can see, Canon have delivered on C-Log 3, at least for the R5 for now, and they've also delivered on the 8K RAW Lite, as well as the lower bit rates that they promised. Nothing else was actually committed to in that release. A friend of this channel, Simon at Ordinary Filmmaker, cleared up an early mistake he made, and he quickly reissued a good video to correct it. I guess that's the reason his channel's been such a success. It's also been covered well by Gordon Laing at Camera Labs. But sadly, I still see misinformation being posted in online forums and Facebook. So I decided to try and help clear that up, and I made this table. It's got the full details of what's available in each camera, and hopefully it will clear things up and not just make it more confusing. A couple of things to point out. Regards the Canon 1DX Mark III, there's been some confusion I've seen on forums regarding the 1.3 change to 1.4, and people are wondering if 1.4 is actually another version of firmware that's going to bring other features. The only reason that it's a step ahead of the Canon R5 and the R6 is because that camera was released earlier, and there's been more bug fixes on that camera. In reality, 1.4 is what brings the features available within 1.3 to the R5. Another thing to point out is that Canon R6, the firmware 1.3 was pulled, and rapidly Canon released firm 1.3.1, which fixed the camera freeze problem that happened when you were filming in crop mode or with an EFS lens. The new firmware really delivers on the Canon R5 though, and we have the 8K RAW Lite, which with a smaller bitrate option, and the 4K RAW Lite. We've also got the high frame rate, 120 frames per second on HD. Now that was existing in the Canon R6, and the reason it was missing on the R5 is inexplicable, but at least we have it now. We also have full-time manual focusing, and it's dependent on an update to some lenses as well, and I'll show you that later today. The addition of C-Log 3 to the Canon R5 should be followed in a later update to the Canon R6, because Canon have still committed to bringing C-Log 3 to that camera. The monitor off function was added. That will be useful in low light environments, and people like astrophotographers will appreciate that. The FTP transfer countdown clock will help. At least you will have a good idea whether it's actually hung or if it's actually still progressing. It's always useful to be able to see data like that. And the FPT protected images comes to the Canon R5, but there's no mention of it for the R6 or for the 1DX Mark III. Similarly, the ability to save and load settings. It's specifically called out on the R5, but it's not mentioned in the release notes for the R6. The CF Express card fix should hopefully help some of those people that have experienced problems with certain CF cards. This has caused everything from delayed startup on the camera and a general sluggishness. There's also been a high-speed continuous shooting glitch fix, Personally, I've never experienced that problem, but I believe it did show up in some cameras. The USB power glitch is also fixed, and again, I never experienced that. Now, there's a fix applicable only to the R6, and that's something to do with the viewfinder image, and a glitch in that. And then a fix specifically for the Canon 1DX Mark III, which didn't get a lot of love in this update, but it improves the reliability when you're using FTP and USB together. I put a timestamp in the chapters that will allow you to come back to that at any point, and you can look at that table if it helps you. Now we'll get into a quick review of how to update both the lens and the camera body. The camera lens update in particular is of interest because it's not exactly obvious when you look at the back of the camera. It's buried in one of the menus, but I'll step through that now when the video is coming up. So here we are on the Canon R5 landing page, and we'll go along to the Firmware tab, click on that, and we'll go for the Mark 1, that's what we are using. So I'll just click on the download button and accept that, and that goes into my download folder. Now it downloads a DMG file, so I need to click on that and expand it, and that will just unzip, and I'll drag the FIR file onto my desktop. So now back on the desktop, we open Canon EOS Utility, and we go to camera settings and firmware update. Tells us we're currently on 1.2, so we click next, just checking that we've downloaded the file. Click next again, and we browse to where I saved the file earlier. So it's on the desktop, and you can see the EOS R5 first file there, so click on that and open. Click next, next, and that copies it over to the camera. And we're closing in on 100% now. That's 97%, 98, 99, 100. So we'll click on the OK here, and the camera will power off and switch back on again. So I'll just go into the menu system, and you can see there in the spanner menu on page 6 tells me we're now in version 1.3. And now to update the lens. I've inserted an SD card here, and I'll open up the SD card as well, and I'll copy that AFE file over to the root directory of the SD card. Now remember to put it in the root directory. And then we'll go over and I'll show you how we install that in the lens. Okay, so here we are with the SD card, which has got the lens update file on it, and we'll stick that in the camera. And switch it on. I'm going to use my glasses here, I think. So you can see here that the camera is on version 1.3, which we've just updated, and the lens is on 1.07. If I click on that, it says current version is 1.07 update firmware. So I come along, click on OK, and it's found the file here on the SD card. So let's click on that, come along to OK, and click OK. And here we are closing down on the update file now. So 96, 97, 98, and it jumps to 100. So that's the update complete. Okay on that. So you can see we have version 1.9 on the lens, version 1.3 in the camera, still at version 1 on the mount adapter. That's the RF 1.4 extender that I have fitted at the moment. You'll notice that I upgraded the lens even with that fitted. That's not a problem, you can do that. I doubt if there'll ever be an update for the mount adapter, but you just never know. So I'll just switch that off. Take my glasses off to protect my long sight. And I hope you found that simple enough. Now we'll get a chance to go and try it. Thanks for watching Rumourhasit. If you found this useful, then why not give us a like? And please click the subscribe button below because it helps the channel grow. And for my part, I'll continue to bring you camera news, rumour and informed opinion.